Welcome, 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 welcome. Okay, thank you.
Good evening and welcome into Mall Athletic Center for Mustang GameDay. My name is Matthew Murin.
And my name is Dylan Allen, and tonight we will be breaking down the Pac-12 showdown between the Cal Poly Mustangs and the Oregon State Beavers. Let's get into the last game for the Mustangs. They kicked off a 4-match homestand on Sunday against SIUE. It was their first home match on the mats of Mall Athletic Center since December 19th. And after 3 weeks of rest and over a month since being home, the Mustangs took full advantage of the crowd and stormed their way to a 26-16 win. It was highlighted by a big-time fall from Cash Stewart, where he cradled his opponent in the second period and got this home crowd fired up. Then at 125 pounds, number 32 ranked Coda Holman secured a decision victory, followed by 133 number 2 ranked Zeth Romney's decision victory as well. After them, number 6 ranked 149-pounder Chance Lamer secured a dominant tech fall to extend his unbeaten 11-0 record on the season. He secured 5 takedowns, 3 of those coming in the final period. The Lamer trio all won on Sunday, as brothers Legend and Dashel both put up strong performances at 157 and 184 pounds. And then at 165, number 22 Luca Wick was down by 1 point until he secured an escape of his own, sending things to overtime. And then in the extra period, Wick came up huge with a takedown, ending the match and securing the win.
Yeah, and the Mustangs are just kicking off their Pac-12 season today, but the conference has already had action, as you can see. Looking at the standings, Little Rock is in the lead out in front with a 14-2 record and 1-0 in the Pac-12, including their Oregon State win. Oregon State win earlier this year. They won 29-14. Cal Poly has also faced off against Little Rock. That did not count towards the conference standings, and they fell just short, 19-21 at the national duels in January. That defeat sent them to the lower bracket in that tournament. They did well. They did win their last duel against SIUE, and so did Oregon State, winning against Cal State Bakersfield to push them to second in the conference. And Cal State Bakersfield is currently sitting at 5-9 in the standings as well. The Mustangs, as I said, are coming into this duel with a lot of momentum, coming off of 3 straight wins against Ohio, Sacred Heart, and SIUE. So looking at a 4th straight win, get that going right now. And you broke that home victory for us, and you can tell us a little bit more about that, more about the individual matchups in a bit, but we'll be getting into that later in the show. This will be Oregon State's final Pac-12 duel of the year, so they're going to be done after this. And if Cal Poly can send them home with a loss, that'll put them down in the standings. So a lot of potential shiftings in the rankings coming up right now.
Yeah, we'll get into the individual matchups later, but just looking at the bigger picture here and the history between these two teams, the Mustangs and Beavers have a long-standing rivalry. Last year's matchup was a really close affair. Oregon State came out on top 21-17. That was a road match for the Mustangs. They were out in Corvallis, so coming here today could play a huge role. We saw the role the home crowd played against SIUE here on Sunday, so I'm really excited to see what could happen here tonight.
I'm with you there. And in their last 2 matchups, the teams have both split the victories, with each winning their home matchup. So home mat advantage does have a little bit of sway in this Oregon State matchup. But before that win in 2023, just 2 years ago, the Mustangs had lost the last 11 matchups against Oregon State, contributing to a 47-11-2 overall all-time record. But with the steps made in recent years in Cal Poly's program, and this year with a lot of great wrestlers in Zeth Romney, Chance Lamer ranked 2 and 6 respectively, which we'll be getting into later, there's a big chance for Cal Poly to take this one here in San Luis Obispo.
There's a huge chance, Matt, and I mean, when you start to look at the matchups here tonight, it's going to be crowded here in Mott. The bleachers are going to be down, but it's really going to be a huge matchup. The Mustangs coming in tonight are number 15 on the Intermat team tournament rankings. They've been sitting there for a while. They've been gradually climbing those rankings throughout the season, courtesy of some big wins, both in individual play and then in team play. But on the other side, for the Beavers, holding a 2-7 record, can't underestimate this Beavers team. They, obviously not a winning record, but they have faced a lot of tough competition and multiple ranked teams. So the Mustangs have their work cut out for them at 4 and 6, and the Beavers hold 4 ranked wrestlers while the Mustangs hold 5. So it's going to be a big matchup here tonight.
Absolutely. Stick with us through the break, and we'll be talking to Cal Poly head coach John Cerritos here on Mustang Game Day.
Cal Poly Athletics built a brand new broadcast video studio in the Graphic Arts Building on campus to help improve their ESPN Plus streams of Cal Poly sports. The studio has the professional equipment the production crew can use to make sure each broadcast runs as smooth as possible. Currently, the studio can only stream broadcasts from Mustang Memorial Field, but Cal Poly Athletics video director and executive producer for broadcast, Andrew Baird, says they're excited to hook it up to Mott Athletic Center and eventually Baggett Stadium.
Everything should be connected in the next year or two at tops, and then it'll be really exciting. You can spend your whole year of sports production in that room, really mastering that professional equipment, and it's really exciting time here at Cal Poly Athletics.
During his 8 years with athletics, Baird says he's built a team that consists of both students and local professionals. Even though there's been interest, Baird says they're still looking for student workers specifically to help out.
And so far we've seen a number of students do well in those roles, and it really just builds my confidence that that's the right way to go.
Since the upgrade, Baird says the team has been trying to use the full scope of their new equipment to noticeably change the quality of each broadcast. He especially wants to emphasize giving the audience at home an in-depth look at the team and their story.
You put in a lot of hours during the week to figure it out on those machines, how to make it work, and then once you get it off and once you succeed that first time, that's probably the coolest feeling.
Even though things are moving pretty fast for Baird, he says he still appreciates how far they've come, especially when looking back at the way streams used to operate.
I remember directing basketball shows off of a keyboard, hit the space bar to transition fade between shots. Like, that's where we started. So to be where we are now is really cool.
For Mustang News, I'm Sergio Romero.
Welcome back to Mustang Game Day here in Mott Athletic Center. Cal Poly Mustangs will be taking on Oregon State in just under an hour here, and we are joined by head coach John Cerritos in his 9th season leading this Mustang wrestling squad. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. Matthew, if you want to take it away.
Absolutely. What are you looking for on the with your wrestlers when you're mat side and watching them take on this Oregon State team?
So regardless of our competition, we're looking for our guys to get better. We use competition as nothing more than a benchmark to see where we're at and find areas of improvement. And I think the only way to do that is to go out and go full send, right? So we're looking for our guys to go out full effort, give it everything they got, and then afterwards, regardless of outcome, we're going to watch the video, take some notes, work on some deficiencies, and keep getting better and keep moving forward.
Absolutely. And you now have the chance with Zeth and Chance being such great wrestlers and staying consistent to have some really specific prep for the matchups they have today. What were some things you guys went through in preparation for today's duel?
So as a coaching staff, we'll do a little bit of scouting. We'll take a quick look just to see if there's anything that stands out that's abnormal that we need to be keenly aware of. But for the most part, we want our guys to focus on themselves and their execution and making sure they're getting to their best scoring position. So surprisingly, very little goes into scouting the other guy. Now, if there's a particular matchup where perhaps on paper they're a little bit better than we are, and we need to be very strategic to make sure we give ourselves a chance, then that can definitely happen. But for the most part, we just want our guys to go out there and focus on themselves and execute at the highest level possible.
And how nice has it been for Coda and some other guys to step up and really fill in some of the weights that have been a little shaky in past years?
Yeah, Coda's definitely most improved in my opinion. He incredible competitor. I think was a little undersized when he first got here, and has done a really good job of putting on some weight. And most people don't know this, but it might be more challenging to gain weight than it is to lose weight, right? Because you hear about the weight cutting stories, but not too much about the weight gain stories. So he's done a really good job of getting bigger and stronger, and really is just dialed in his technique. And the dude's the ultimate competitor. You know, we saw that from day one, and now we're just trying to make sure that we point him in the right direction, and like take some of the emotion down and keep it more focused into executing. And I think what you're seeing is Coda 2.0 right now. And yeah, he's getting close, man. It should be a good one tonight. We wrestle number 11, and those guys have seen each other before, so it should be some fireworks right out of the gate.
Coach, Zeth has been on such a cool journey. I know we talked last week, but only one loss on the year. Can you tell me a little bit more about how he was able to switch from that result-oriented mindset to more of the improvement-oriented and just growing with every match?
Just a ton of work and preparation in the off-season. You know, everyone talks about how important the mental side is, but I don't know how many programs actually truly pour into it as much as we do. I mean, we not only have our performance mindset coach that is essentially with us full time, meeting with our guys one-on-one individually, meeting with our team, meeting with our captains, but we carve out a significant amount of time to really dial that piece in, and Zeth is the perfect example of that. You know, he put in the Zeth you're seeing today wrestle is totally different from last year. So it was just an entire off-season of work. And even when he did lose the match against a really, really tough Stanford kid, he walked up. There was no frustration. It's like, hey, we got to figure out this position. We spent the next 48 hours in that scoring position, tightened it up, and moved on with it. And I think because of that, he can wrestle with a little bit less performance anxiety and really just let it fly, knowing that win or lose, as long as we do our best, man, we're going to walk off the mat and high five and get better.
Absolutely, Coach. I'm excited to see all these guys out here tonight. It's been a fun season, and I think tonight's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I think it's going to be some fireworks tonight. I think there's a couple surprises in both lineups, so it's gonna get really interesting really quickly. So yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thanks so much. And stick with us to hear more about this Cal Poly wrestling squad and the matchup against Oregon State.
This past weekend, Cal Poly football and men's soccer played in back-to-back games at Mustang Memorial Field. The football game wrapped up just before 5:30 p.m., giving event staff only about 2.5 hours to get the field and stadium ready for one of the most important games of men's soccer season. With the sold-out crowd for Mustang Family Weekend slowly trickling out of the stadium and local news station KSBY wrapping up their broadcast of the game, the 45-person event staff had a lot on their plate. I had the chance to talk to events coordinator Jesse Latino about what exactly goes into a transition like this.
Definitely a little bit of extra work for everybody having both games back-to-back. Had to do a little bit of different things as far as locker rooms goes, as far as locker room locations for the teams.
Typically, the away football teams would use the home men's soccer locker room, but since they had a game right after, athletics put Montana in soccer's away locker room.
Bakersfield men's soccer was going to have to use the same locker room that Montana was in. And there was a real quick turnaround for that. So we actually had to put Bakersfield in the business building in a classroom up there.
Another obstacle Latino and his team needed to overcome was the fact that there wasn't enough time for a field groomer to come and properly prepare the turf.
It would be nice if we had a little bit more time. We could have had the field groomer out here, which basically just kind of stands up the grass and get some of the trash that might have been left behind.
It was enough in the end as Cal Poly men's soccer clinched their first Big West regular season championship in program history against Cal State Bakersfield. For Mustang News, I'm Sergio Romero.
Thanks so much for sticking with us through the break. We're hoping you're having a fantastic Friday. We're going to get into some more of the individual players on this Mustangs team now. And Dylan, tell me a little bit about Chance Lamer. He's the number 6 ranked wrestler at 141. What have you seen from him this year, especially in that last matchup that you were at against SIUE?
Yeah, Matt, he's been incredible this year. 11-0, as you said, the number 6 ranked wrestler, and he's just so quick. He's so fast. He is so dominant, and the thing that I think really makes him stand out from some of the other wrestlers at the weight class is his cardio, his endurance. He's able to stay in matches really, really long. On Sunday, we saw him get 3 takedowns in the final period, which is just, it's rare to see someone extend a match for that long, stay in it, and then take down his opponent 3 times in the final period. I mean, you're out there for 6 minutes at a match, and I mean, to be able to stay in it for that long, his cardio is elite. It's a testament to the entire team. And, I mean, an 11-match win streak. He's still undefeated on the season. Tonight he's going to have a tough matchup, though. But Chance is very, very exciting to watch.
And he's looking dangerous coming into this duel, to say the least. I mean, he's got a lot of momentum. Hasn't lost this season. And you think with that mindset of no one's going to stop me, how is he going to approach this matchup? Is he going to be aggressive? How is he going to approach it?
Oh, well, I would for sure say aggressive. I mean, you can tell he loves being out there with his brothers, Dashel and Legend. They're following him up. But, yeah, he's a very aggressive wrestler. He goes right at his opponent from the get-go. And it's going to be the same thing tonight. And, you know, he fires up his brothers. Once he's done wrestling, his brothers get him fired up. This team just really comes together all around. Tell me a little bit about Luca Wick, on the other hand. Yeah,
I had a chance to talk to Luca throughout this past week and just talking about his journey, not only throughout this season but also his career. But he's also on a 6-bout win streak going into today's matchup and going 5-0 as well through those national duels at Cedar Falls. And he's ranked 23rd at 165 pounds, and he's really found his rhythm, dominating opponents with multi 15-0, 17-0 technical falls throughout this season. And it's been a nice surprise because he was sidelined for most of last year with a hip injury, and he eventually had to get surgery on a torn labrum. We'll hear more about that later, as I did get a chance to speak to him about that. But it's really just great to see him back on the mat, getting active, and having a lot of success over these past few months. And you also had the chance to talk with another wrestler we're going to get to here today, Zeth Romney. How has his season been? What is he looking like?
Oh, man, Zeth is just such a unique wrestler. You watch him out there at 133 pounds. He's the #2 ranked wrestler in that weight class. He is so much fun to watch. I mean, he is electric. He is so fast. His arms are so long. He's able to use his length like no one else in the weight class. And, I mean, he's been on such a special journey with his mental journey specifically, as we were talking to John. As we were talking to John about him switching from more result-oriented, oh, I lost this match. He was very focused on wins and losses, and John and Coach Coit Cooper, the mindset coach of the team, was able to switch to becoming more improvement-focused and more growth-focused, and I got the chance to speak with Zeth last week about that.
After a breakout year for Zeth Romney in his first season as a Mustang, he knew he had more work to put in. But a lot of that came outside of the wrestling room. In fact, most of the work was focused on changing his perspective.
Whether I go out there and do exactly what I wanted or not, there's always things I can improve. Like, even when I have a great match, it's like, all right, that was good, but let's get better at that. Like, let's get more takedowns, let's score more points. There's always just things that I can work on, and I can always begin better.
Dealing with an injury towards the end of last year, Romney was not where he wanted to be mentally. So he worked on finding his identity separate from the sport, allowing him to wrestle more carefree.
I only get to do this for a couple years, and then after that, it's the rest of my life. So just tying that into my purpose as a whole, and just like being super excited and just like having fun. I mean, there's no pressure whether you win or lose. Like, it really doesn't change the course of my life. Like, I'm just here to put myself out there and try my hardest, and hopefully like it works.
After going to the NCAA championships last year with a 19-9 record, Romney did a lot of work with the team's mindset coach, Coit Cooper, over the offseason.
I think first thing you got to do is look in the mirror. Like, it's got to be his decision. You know, we can guide and coach, but he's the one that's got to put the work in. And it takes time, just like anything else. Just like you work on a wrestling technique, you need to spend time, you need to carve out time and work on what you're thinking about, right? And the mental side of things. And he's done a better job at that than most. And having some great guidance with Dr. Coit, and just, you know, really delving in and just spending time on it, I think is what he's doing.
After Romney's one and only loss this year, Sarita saw how big of a change he really made.
For example, last year, you know, perhaps he would lose a match at Cliff Keen, Las Vegas, and he would beat himself up a little bit and get super frustrated, and you can see that bleed over into his next performance, where this year, he did lose a match, and immediately we're just getting to growth. Like, okay, we got to fix this position. We came in, we spent several days in the position, we got better, and we moved on from it.
Now holding an 11-1 record and ranked #2 in the country at 133 pounds, Romney switched to focusing on improvement has helped him regain the love for the sport that he grew up playing.
I like to think of it like this is my art. Like, I'm going out there and creating. Like, why would I like be so emotional about it or care so much about it. That's gonna stop me from being as free as I can and opening up as much. So I just want to go out there and be creative and wrestle as hard as I can.
That was great to see some behind the scenes on Zeth's journey throughout this season, Dylan, and we'll be back with more on Mustang Game Day.
Monarch butterflies migrate from as far as the Rockies to spend their winters in sanctuaries like the Pismo Butterfly Grove. After heavy storms last year, Pismo volunteers counted 16,000 butterflies this winter season, down from 24,000 before the storms. But the creatures are still flocking to Pismo for the last few weeks of winter. Suzanne Bradford was a volunteer at the Grove in the early 2000s.
And when it gets warm enough for them to start to fly in the morning, they'll sit out in the sun and flap their wings to pump up the circulation in their wings and to get warmer.
There is a beauty and a gentleness to these creatures that probably is not in any other kind of creature.
That was Mike Shapiro from Sonoma, who has known about the Pismo Grove since he was in elementary school.
When you come into a place like this and you say, okay, my voice is going to go down, my movements are going to be slower, and I'm just going to enjoy where I am.
Monarch butterflies' diet, toxic milkweed, keeps them safe from predators. Since the 80s, California's monarch population has dropped by 95% due to habitat loss, pesticide use, and climate change. So the Pismo Grove means a lot to its neighbors, like Penny Villalba.
You can't come here and see them and not be touched by it.
In a few weeks, the monarchs will migrate east, and their great-great-grandchildren will return in the fall.
You can say that they are simply here for us to enjoy.
Cole Pressler, Mustang News.
Welcome back to the show. We are here live at Mott Athletic Center, where we are just moments away from Cal Poly kicking off their Pac-12 season opener against the Oregon State Beavers.
Yeah, and let's send it down to Charlie Wiltsey, who's a little bit closer to the mat for more on Cal Poly wrestling.
Hey, thanks, guys. I'm here, Matt Side, at Mott Athletic Center here at Cal Poly. Not too long before the Mustangs are set to take on Oregon State in this dual meet. It's their Pac-12 opener. The Mustangs come in 4-6 in dual meets so far this season. They definitely had a pretty tough start to the year. Pretty competitive matches against highly ranked teams like Stanford, Northwestern, Indiana, where they lost. Also some matches early on where you'd hoped, maybe they'd want to get it back against like Cal Baptist. But in the past month or so, they've really been turning it around, hitting their stride, kind of at the perfect time. They've got 5 meets this month, 4 of them at home. I think all of that kind of started right around the invitationals, I'd say in about December. I think they mentioned the Cliff Keen Invitational in early December out in Vegas, where Zeth Romney got the 133-pound title. That was big for this team. Also, they mentioned Luka Wick. He had multiple upset matches against highly ranked opponents in their national dual meets pretty recently. And he rose way up in the rankings based on that. So those kind of individual performances have really fueled the Mustangs' turnaround of their season, where early on it was looking, pretty doubtful, coming off a pretty good year last year. But just they've been following those sort of those performances from their key players who we've been talking about over and over. They've just been fueling this success over the past month or so. And so I think those will be kind of the key pieces to follow tonight as they head on to face Oregon State. And, they had some injuries as well early on. We mentioned, I think, Adam Kemp as well. He's out, so they've got to fill in all the spots, but a lot to look at tonight. Thanks, guys. Pass it back to you.
Thanks, Charlie. As you said, a lot to look for tonight. As you said, Kemp, a notable missing spot in the lineup. He is now moving on to taking the next step with his clothing store, so we will not see him any longer on this Cal Poly wrestling roster. A huge loss, honestly. He was the Pac-12 champion last year, but moving on to better things, and we'll be excited to see the rest of this squad come out tonight. Stick with us through the break to hear more on tonight's matchup for Cal Poly wrestling.
Cal Poly students in environmental management, forestry and natural resources, and other fields of study have a new opportunity to get the learn by doing experience. Cal Poly received a fire simulator that can model wildland fire behavior. The simulator can be used for fire behavior research, as well as better informing members of the community about risks associated with where the wildland meets the city. Third-year Garrett Lee has taken it upon himself to share this new piece of technology with his peers.
We have this technology, why aren't we using it? So put me on it, I got it delivered here to campus, and then starting with that, I just started fiddling around with it. But the more that I fiddled around with it, the more I saw its applications and started getting involved with other people.
Garrett also works for the Wildland Urban Interface Fire Institute on campus and with the City of San Luis Obispo Fire Department, showing his dedication to both fire prevention and sharing that wealth of knowledge.
And I started to realize that there's a lot more issues than just structural firefighting. Like, sure, that saves lives every day, but there's a little bit more to that in the sense that we have all this wildland and we only have so much city.
Nick Bayham, a student who's getting involved with this technology, already sees the applications for it in his field of study.
As a soil science major, I think about how can we use this to try and predict soil burn severity.
For Mustang News, I'm Eli Benson.
Welcome back. Dylan, take us through some matchups that we're going to see tonight.
Yeah, the Mustangs carry 5 nationally ranked wrestlers in tonight. The Beavers carry 4 at 125 pounds. Kicking things off, it's number 31 Coda Holman pitted against number 11 Maximo Renteria. Holman 16-8 on the year, Renteria 12-5. At 149, Chance Lamers taking on number 16 Ethan Stiles. Probably the matchup of the night. Pac-12 Wrestler of the Week last week, and Chance undefeated.
Yeah, and I got a chance to talk to Luca Wick, who's going to be another individual we're looking at tonight, earlier this week, and let's see more on his journey right now.
Redshirt junior Luca Wick is ranked 23rd at 165 pounds, but just 1 year ago, it was unsure if he'd ever step back onto the wrestling mat.
I stepped off the mat, collapsed, and I was like, I can't walk. For 45 minutes, I couldn't walk.
Wick was temporarily cleared and was able to wrestle again, but after a few weeks of pain, it was clear something was wrong. In September, another visit to the doctor confirmed the bad news. He'd need hip surgery for a torn labrum.
It hit hard. I had a couple months of depression because I was also told I might not ever wrestle again because people don't come back from this injury, really.
However, even after the surgery, the pain in his hip remained.
I can't get through it. I can't get through one hard practice. I'm in a practice, switching my lead leg to my left side, doing everything I can just to make it through. A grown man, crying. It wasn't working.
With few options left, Wick turned towards a PRP, or platelet-rich plasma injection, to help with the pain.
It helps, yes, but it hurts bad. It's about a needle this big that goes right here, and it's bad.
Despite the daunting needle, the treatment worked, and Wick is now back on the mat. With no pain holding him back, the difference in his wrestling has been clear to see for the rest of the team.
Less protecting, more taking risk, and actually enjoying it and having fun. I think that's the biggest thing for him is he was always wrestling out of an abundance of caution and worried about what was going on with his body, and now he's starting to free up and let loose a little bit. And when he does that, he's one of the best.
And in Luca's own words,
the coaches are making fun of me. They're like, dude, you're so happy at the tournament. You're happy at practice. You're competing well. What changed? And I was like, dude, I'm not in pain. I've been in pain for the past 3 years. It's kind of been miserable. And now I can really find my love for the sport again.
For both Wick and Coach Cerritos, the long recovery journey is finally paying off.
He's dealt with a lot of adversity and setbacks, but, he's done it with a smile on his face and not one to complain. He's just does the best he can with what he has, and now we're hitting a pretty good streak here, so it's a lot of fun.
Now able to wrestle with no obstacles, Wick says a weight has been lifted off his shoulders.
It did make me hate wrestling for a while. And to not have that anymore I'm extremely grateful.
For Mustang News, I'm Matthew Mirren.
Luca's a great athlete, and it was really great to talk to him throughout his season, and throughout the rest of the season we'll see how he does. Dylan, take us through a little bit of breakdown of this matchup before we get into it.
Yeah, before we wrap things up tonight, Mustangs have 3 keys to the game. The first, if they want to get some momentum for their team, they need to start off hot in the first 2 weight classes behind Coda Holman and Zeth Romney, dynamic duo of the lighter weight classes. They're both ranked, both coming off victories, and if they can keep their momentum going and start off hot, I think the rest of the team will be fueled by that, and it's really going to get this crowd going as well. I'm expecting a packed crowd here at Mott. It's a Friday night, 7 p.m. matchup. And that's going to be a really exciting duo at 125 and 133.
Absolutely, and that second key is just right. We got to get the crowd involved in order to give a lot of energy to these wrestlers, and I think it's going to be really important to have energy, have a lot of great students coming in and supporting the team. And let's get into that third key, staying aggressive on attacks without overcommitting. Throughout the season, we've seen a little bit of over-aggressiveness from some Cal Poly wrestlers. Trevor Tinker, for example, in that Stanford duel, was up 12-0 and got pinned. And that was just because he overcommitted and there was a reversal on him during that matchup. So it's going to be a tough little line to walk and a tough balance to find throughout the rest of the season. But Dylan, take us through before we get right into the matchup.
Well, Tinker has a huge matchup tonight. Number 28 ranked Trevor Tinker will be taking on number 23 Brett Maurer of Oregon State. Tinker 17-5, Maurer 11-7. So a big-time heavyweight battle to round out the action here. I'm really excited for that heavyweight bout. There's a ton of matchups here tonight. I'm excited to see. As John said, head coach John said, it's going to be fireworks here in Mott Athletic Center.
Yeah, and if they can stay patient, take their chances when they come, it's going to be a really great matchup, and I'm really excited to see how it shakes out.
Thank you so much for joining us here in Mott Athletic Center. My name is Dylan Allen. This is Matthew Murin.
And we'll see you next time on Mustang Game Day.